look who's got a popular podcast. Marcellus Wiley, the More To It podcast, Dan Patrick Podcast Network. Thing is going up the charts, man. He's leaving these other podcasts in the dust. Congratulations there. The More To It podcast, Marcellus Wiley, wherever you get your podcast. Also available at danpatrick.com. Where do you want to start?
Oh, man. One, thank you, Dan, for the platform and opportunity to come on here every week for the podcast. Our partnership is going so well. It's therapeutic. It's my diary, and it's just all my experiences and expressions being laid out for the fans. And so far, so great.
If you were on the Cowboys, you're a defensive lineman as a former Cowboy, and your place kicker has missed 3 in a row, 3 extra points. You're going to play a role as one of the leaders on the Cowboys. What do you do?
One, I got to remind them that those 3 misses are not connected. I think what happens a lot of times with momentum, we connect things and therefore you go with that momentum, even if it's negative. So in this moment, you know you want to stop the flow. You want him to make the next kick. So you have to remind him, you missing the first kick wasn't because you were off. You were rather because you had a bad morning. It wasn't because of anything. You just missed a kick. Now you missed the second kick. It's not because you missed the first kick. And sometimes you can spiral out of control. So I will calm him down, make sure he knew that every play was an independent play and approach it with that mindset. But if you jump on him, if you criticize him, if you make him all of a sudden start to feel like, oh my God, the world is falling on my shoulders, then obviously you're going to go out there and miss 4.
Okay, but you're showing composure here.
Yeah.
You're in the moment. And this might cost you a chance to advance. Yeah, we had Tony Dungy on last hour, and he said he would have benched him after the 3rd miss and gone for 2.
Oh, wow.
So that's Tony Dungy doing that. Are you going to keep your, bleep together on the sidelines as you see? Dak Prescott didn't. He's showing his emotions.
Yeah, you got to think about it. Look, I am one of the other 52 players. And let's just say 50 of them are already giving them hell. And I'm like, that's not going to work right now because his cheerleaders don't have pom-poms. Like in between his ears, his head, he is down on himself. If I don't rise, if I don't help him lift himself and help him raise himself in this moment, the dude's going to die on the field. We're literally going to see him just implode on the field. So somebody has to give the balancing act. I'm not saying I'm not dog cursing him inside my own head, but I know in that moment, brother needs a hand, and he needs a hand up, so I would have extended it to him.
I don't know why people were surprised Dallas's performance, because Tampa's not good. Had no running game. Offensive line was spotty. Defense didn't step up. And Dallas does have a lot of talent there. As I've said, I was betting on Tom Brady. I was not betting on Tampa Bay. And even Tom wasn't good in this situation either. Judging body language with Tom Brady. Tom Brady is where next year doing what?
It's funny because everyone was betting on Tampa or thinking they had a shot because of the mystique of Tom Brady. Not necessarily the production or who he was in this moment, just the mystique. And that was also why people weren't really believing that Dallas could do it, because something about the Cowboys were cowboy or whatever that narrative is, right? But in reality, it's about how well you play, and the Cowboys played well. Where does Tom Brady land? I tell you this, he's certainly taken a one-way flight out of Tampa Bay. He is going upstairs, exchanging all of his human capital, all of his resume, all of his greatness, and the fact that he gave them a championship in year 1 and saying, let me free, let me go. Now, Tom Brady's going to go either Miami, Las Vegas, and a wild card team out there that's just going to show up and just say, hey, we got to have Brady for this amount of time. It probably could. It's not going to be San Francisco, but San Francisco's certainly going to peek and poke around with the situation. But with Purdy, the way he's playing, especially if he finishes this season out, you got to stick with Purdy. But Tom Brady, for one, will not be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer next year.
What do you do if you're the Packers? Can you be proactive with Aaron Rodgers? And if so, how?
No, I think that Aaron Rodgers is in a position with the contract. Remember, 3 years, $150 million. All of the conversation, external noise, I think Aaron Rodgers comes in there peacefully and says, can we come to an amicable resolution? What does that mean? Like, you save face and I save face. But right now, you had a succession plan. It's time to return to that. It's time to go to Jordan
Oh,
Love.
you think he's done?
I think he's done in Green Bay because 13-3, 13-3, 13-3, home field advantage, and now we're a 500 team not going the right direction. What am I sticking around for? Now, I am Aaron Rodgers, but I'm heavy on these books. Let's be real. And you need a team. You need to develop these receivers. You need to develop the next quarterback. And I still have enough toothpaste in the tube where I can go elsewhere and have success. I think this is one of those where you do me one because I did you one. Okay. If Aaron Rodgers comes in without noise, I think it could happen.
Talking to Marcellus Wiley, the podcast is called More to It. Dan Patrick Podcast Network, the former NFL All-Pro defensive end. We lauded Aaron Judge for betting on himself. Right? Oh, my God. Yeah. He bet on himself. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson bet on himself, right?
Yeah.
How does this play out? Does it play out the same way as Aaron Judge's did?
There's a big difference in this in terms of initial reception. I think largely because Lamar Jackson is being represented by his mother. So already people have issue with that. They're looking at it like, are you really putting yourself in the best position? Do you have the best counsel? Do you know what you're doing, basically? Where Aaron Judge, we didn't start off in that position. Now, in that position as well, Aaron Judge was a guy that you believed in terms of talent, production, and didn't have issues in terms of his health and in terms of how he could perform. So we're starting in two different places already. They always say, if you represent yourself, you have a client for a fool, because who is giving you guidance, right? Who is really showing you the way? So now you get Lamar Jackson and he gets hurt. How does this happen? On your contract year. Now, Lamar Jackson will turn out like Aaron Judge for this reason alone. We saw Dak Prescott get hurt and in his absence show his value. I think that was shown with Lamar Jackson. If we go down to the last second on the road to Cincinnati with a backup, oh, give me Lamar Jackson, we win that game. And you've heard that come out of the locker room since that game. More importantly, Lamar Jackson is big business. He's a box office star. Like, this team gets energized by him. So because there's no failure in Dak Prescott getting hurt and still got paid, and the fact that we're talking $200 million minimum to a guy who's making $27 million right now, there's no way he can lose this situation.
What did you make of Kirby Smart's speech before the national title game?
Oh, man, are we on air? People can hear me. No lie. Actually, on the podcast, I ranked the pregame speeches I've had from my 6 NFL head coaches, and there's none coming close to what Kirby Smart said. I wish I could repeat it right now, but on the podcast, I do. Point being, that was the hypest, most direct, primal, engaging pregame speech I've ever heard. Like, there's not going to be another one that touches that one, because he went straight to the source of why are we playing football. I don't want to always hear these big terms and phrases and execution and discipline and commitment. No, go knock their... That's it. Like, when you first start playing football, before you knew how to play, before you knew the plays, you knew the scheme, you knew to go knock that dude. Like, and he just went back to channel 0. And that was the best thing I've ever heard. If I were on that team, I would have helped out and chipped in on that 65-7 win. Unreal.
You ever had a bad pregame speech by a coach?
Since I'm doing this for a job, I'm sorry, coaches, but I have to say it. Yeah, I did, because sometimes they would go to the emotional lane too soon. Sometimes they would say something that was just too soft and glossy. And we're like, dude, we're about to go out there for 3 hours and hit 300-pounders. And you're sounding like I'm going to a play recital or something. You're sounding like we're going to theater. I need something vicious. I need some of that Kirby Smart. So Mike Riley was a great coach for me, but too nice. So his pregame speeches came out too nice. They were like kind of Girl Scout cookie selling. Like, you know, like we're like, all right, coach, that sounds good. He never got rah-rah. He never got riled up. Marty Schottenheimer got so emotional so fast that you were like, Yeah, I'm not in that place yet, Coach. I'm still just hyped up. It's 0-0.
Was he crying?
Up. Oh, hell yeah. Marty loved, rest in peace, the great Marty Schottenheimer. He was so passionate. He loved football so much, and I'm not lying, so much, he would literally just start crying. It could be a Wednesday practice. It could be his pregame speech. He just really felt it, and his lip would start shivering. I was like, man, I'm not there yet, Marty. Give me a different lane, and then we can get going.
A Wednesday practice, and he's getting that emotional.
Yeah, he's into it, man. It's crazy. But so it runs the gamut. Then you get some guys that, they're so hyped up and you're like, oh my God, this is going down. And then you go out there and lay an egg and you're like, well, that speech had nothing to do with it, or we didn't serve up to it.
The 27-point lead by the Chargers.
Unreal.
What did Jacksonville do? If you can pinpoint and say that's the reason why they didn't panic, and they came out and they ended up winning this game.
Yeah. Couple things at play. One, what Jacksonville did was stay alive mentally, emotionally. On the field, they actually took the best punches and had their worst efforts and still were around. I remind people in football, because we all get caught up and lost in the math of football. They were down 27-0. And you remember I was that teammate that walked up to the kicker in Dallas and said, hey, bro, they're not connected. You're okay. Well, here goes this guy again when we're down 27-0. I say to everyone on Jacksonville on my team, hey, you know that 27-0 in football is only 4 plays. 4 plays away. I have to do this with my kids when we're coaching. We're up big or we're down big. I'm like, hey, that's only 4 plays. Like, you could get caught up in 27. You don't have to do 27 things better than them. You just got to do 4, and you're right back in this thing. So they kept their composure. And then you know what happens when you get a big lead. No matter what, you have to fight against the temptation of playing it safe. Prevent offense, prevent defense, prevents you from winning those games, because you just take your foot off the gas, and next thing you know, the other team starts inching closer and closer to finally the momentum's on their side, and then they take off.
Yeah, I thought Doug Peterson, the whole second half adjustments, Peyton Manning said that's a big myth. You don't have time. Tony Dungy said that he made a second half adjustment, and he was going to give a speech, and they said, Coach, you got 30 seconds before the kickoff. And then he said, all right, basically, let's cut down on our mistakes. And then they went out and they ended up winning the game. That we get caught up in that halftime adjustments. I think Doug Peterson probably just said, guys, we beat ourselves in the first half. We put them in great position. We're only down 27-0. It could be worse. All we have to do is score, stop, score. And that's what happened. And then all of a sudden now you put a little pressure on the Chargers. Now they go out and go like, oh, we got to score here. And it changes their momentum, their rhythm.
Yeah, man. It takes me to one of the adages I heard from Bill Belichick, that more games are lost than won in the NFL. And when you digest that, you realize, no, you're your worst enemy on that football field, right? Yeah. It's not them beating you. I mean, we're all big, fast, strong, and we made it here. We're all black belts. You're not out there going to just destroy me, are you? No, I got to help you. I have to assist you in that. But when I stop helping you, good luck beating me. And I think that's always the halftime adjustment when you're down, especially that big. But also the Chargers, in that moment when you're feeling that pressure, you realize, oh, I took my foot off the gas, and now I have to apply it again. It is so difficult to stop-start in the NFL, especially emotionally. Once you take one gear off, downshift, it's hard to go back up to that same level. And once that team is rolling, you know what's going to happen.
Give me the surprise this weekend.
Watch for those Giants. I mean, I don't know what Vegas is saying, but those Giants, familiar with the Eagles, long break.
I think 7.5-point underdogs.
Yeah, watch for that. I'm not a betting man, but I put 5 on it. That's something right there, because the Giants are too familiar with them playing great ball right now. Philadelphia had the break, so it's rest and rust. And then you got Jalen Hurts, who just got inserted back, but is he in flow one game in the last 5 weeks or so? So watch for those Giants. They're going to feel real good and comfortable playing those Eagles.
It's a treat. The podcast, more to it with Marcellus Wiley. It's available wherever you get your podcast and certainly at danpatrick.com. Great to talk to you. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you, man. That's Marcellus Wiley.